In the news this week, an attempt to introduce abortion on demand up to birth is abandoned. Nearly 200 medics oppose legalising assisted suicide in Scotland. And the High Court hears how the current abortion law discriminates against those with Down syndrome. Hello. A plan to introduce abortion on demand up to birth in England and Wales has been withdrawn. The amendment to the Police, Crime, Sentencing and Courts Bill would have repealed all legal safeguards around abortion, facilitating abortion at any time and for any reason or none. The proposal, tabled by Diana Johnson MP, was severely criticised by a number of her colleagues. Fiona Bruce described it as truly shocking. New Clause 55 has no place in a compassionate, civilised and humane society. During the debate, MPs repeatedly drew attention to the high number of calls and emails they had received from constituents, urging them to oppose the change. Bob Blackman said he had received more emails and calls about New Clause 55 than any other measure since being elected to the House 11 years ago. The Institute's Deputy Director, Kieran Kelly, welcomed the news.
This is really great news, and what was noticeable that MP after MP spoke about how many emails and phone calls and letters they had received on this issue. And they were coming not just from our supporters, but from many others around the country. And I hope that they're encouraged that they can make a real Christian difference when they write into their MP, and not just on this issue, but on the issue of religious liberty, end-of-life issues and other things, to contact MPs and make their voice heard.
Almost 200 healthcare professionals have expressed their opposition to a new bill to legalise assisted suicide in Scotland. MSP Liam MacArthur is proposing to remove legal protections for vulnerable patients who are terminally ill. But in an open letter to Health Secretary Humza Yousaf, doctors and nurses from across the country pledged to care for the safety and well-being of their patients, even if asked to do otherwise. The medics reminded the Health Secretary that every human life is of immeasurable worth and that no one should be deprived of that life intentionally. We would not take patients' lives, even if they asked us to, but for the sake of us all and for future generations, we ask that the law remains unchanged. The High Court has ruled that men who identify as women can be housed with female prisoners in England and Wales. Ministry of Justice policy currently allows women's prisons to house men who say they wish to live permanently as if they were the opposite sex. A female prisoner known as FDJ had challenged the policy after she was assaulted in 2017 by a man convicted for sex offences who identified as a woman. Although the judges conceded it could have a significant psychological impact on female prisoners, they decided the policy is lawful and that a specialist panel should decide the placement of male inmates on a case-by-case basis. FDJ said she was disappointed by the ruling. Men who have a history of violence and sexual offending against women should not be in a situation where they can put our safety at risk. And finally, the High Court has heard that the current law on abortion stereotypes and demeans those with Down syndrome. James Coppell QC made the comments while representing Heidi Crowther and Moya Lee Wilson, who argue that the UK's abortion law is discriminatory. Currently, abortion is permitted up to 24 weeks for most reasons, but is available at full term for children deemed to have a severely life-limiting condition, including Down syndrome. Coppell said this is incompatible with the European Convention on Human Rights and is a contributory cultural cause of abuse against those with Down syndrome. Lee Wilson said she wanted her son Aidan, who has the condition, to grow up knowing he's not someone people have to cope with. He's not a burden to society. He is a wonderful human being in his own right. Speaking to the Institute after the hearing was announced, Heidi Crowther outlined why she believes the abortion law is unfair to preborn babies with Down syndrome.
But the reason I'm bringing this case is because I am someone who has Down syndrome and I will not tolerate discrimination. Also, discrimination against my husband, and I love my husband so much. And see the person behind me as a chromosome. The key point is to maintain equality in the womb.
Well, that's all for this week. For regular updates and information on all of our stories, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. Until next time, goodbye.